The Orange Island arc of Pokemon was pretty decent, all things considered. It was dull at times and relied on formula and Island of the Week gimmicks a little too often, but there was still some great spectacle, and I love how the team was pretty much given carte blanche to do whatever they wanted since they didn't need to follow the game story at all. In that sense, it was almost the purest form of the Pokemon anime, unclouded by directives from Game Freak aside from a few Gen 2 leaks. Having unfiltered creative freedom can lead to both awesome highs and awkward misfires, but right now I want to focus on the former, with the latter reserved for another video. What episodes aged the best and gave me the most feelings? Well, let's find out. Now remember that this is my personal opinion. The order is largely arbitrary, and these are just quick recaps. I of course go into more detail in my individual reviews of each episode. This is just my personal top 10 best episodes of the Orange. Number 5.
The stumps for detour!
I guess it's weird for me to go on that whole unfettered creativity spiel earlier when one of my favorite episodes has one of the simplest and least creative plots in episodic adventure format history. Group gets sick, one member must find cure. On the surface, it's not very eye-catching at all, but it's a wonderful case study of how creativity and freshness extends further than the trappings it's placed in. In the process of Misty getting some weed to loosen up her traveling companions, and side note, writing that episode was a 4-hour struggle not to make that joke every sentence, we get some great animation, fantastic gags, kick-butt battles in which a lesser-known Pokemon finally shines for the first and last time, R.I.P. Goldeen, and sweet character moments between both the heroes and the villains. Jesse's out-of-character brutality put a sour note at the end, but overall this was filler done right, Misty done right, and James done super right. Dang, he works that sudden bell. Number 4.
Enter the Dragonite!
From one of the best examples of filler to one of the best examples of story. This one is also beautiful in its simplicity, at least at the story level. Ash and Drake fight. That's it. But like in one of the few Indigo League episodes I could actually call decent, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that. The complexity doesn't always come from the plot itself, sometimes it can come from the action, and if you're really good, the action can also perform double duty as character study. Like in the Mandarin Island mismatch, where we were shown Prima's ability to adapt through her actions. This episode was great at this, with surprisingly intelligent touches that showed Ash's growth as a trainer, like the fact that Taurus was finally beaten through sheer attrition as foreshadowing for how Dragonite is ultimately defeated. I'm aware that there are much better battle episodes to come, but for the time it was released, it'd be hard to ask for a more satisfying final confrontation in a Pokemon season. It was big, bombastic, unhindered by annoying side plots, and just satisfying all around. It was everything I wanted in the Indigo League, but never really got. Oh, and Ash won. That's also significant, I guess. Number 3.
Pokeball Barrel!
This character study disguised as filler is a great example of how to accomplish two somewhat opposing goals, introducing a world and letting a character go. I go into this more thoroughly in the actual Journey episode, also one of my better written and structured thoughts, I think. But when you have only one episode to let a character go, you have an incredibly tough job ahead of you, especially when it's one so beloved as Brock. Yet against all odds, Atsuhiro Tomioka does a fantastic job at methodically breaking down each of Brock's admittedly few characteristics and providing a satisfying and believable conclusion based on each of them that even fans of Brock should have to admit was probably the best way to see him off. I actually remember watching this episode as a kid, and I have a distinct memory of thinking, that's sad, but it's a good place to leave him. It's not the only strong aspect of that episode either. It also did a wonderful job of introducing a brand new region of the Pokemon world, showing how different it was and even foreshadowing changes in the series to come with regional variants, even if they dropped the ball on following through with it in future episodes for the most part. To be honest, I think this was a far better send-off for Brock than what we got later on in Johto, though I can't compare it to when he left for the 3rd time since I haven't seen those episodes yet. Imagine being so popular that you have to leave the series 3 times. But that's Brock for you, always coming back for more. Number 2.
Pikachu Revolve!
It might not be as memorable as some, it might not be as emotional as some, and it might not even be as well written as some, but in terms of every single element working exceptionally well together to create a sterling piece of children's TV animation, you can't go past Angry Pikachu. You also probably can't go past it because that thing is scary. It might not have been written by Takeshi Shudo himself, but boy howdy does it have his fingerprints all over it. Focus on Team Rocket? Check. Darker color palette? Check. Equal parts fascinating and horrifying new aspects of the world put on uncomfortable display without losing its heart? Checkmate. Heck, the basic plot is remarkably similar to Shudo's original pitch for the season finale. I might have even thought he was writing under a pseudonym, if not for the fact that it doesn't contain any of his trademark weaknesses either. No bizarre forays into strange supernatural tangents, no cloying, confused yet paradoxically ham-handed message, just pure, dark enough to be exciting action with enough pathos, humor, character, and gorgeous animation to keep someone on the edge of their seat for a full 20 minutes. Aside from the amazing concept and wonderful subversion, such as near the end, where Ash tries to get through to Pikachu with the power of love and gets defibrillated for his efforts, so he actually has to use his head to figure out a solution, I think what stood out for me the most about this episode is just how much it upped its game when it came to cinematography and creativity of vision. There's tons of great camera angles and appealing scene compositions, culminating in a freaking prime primetime quality climax near the end. I'd have to say that if there was just a bit more character development, it'd be a contender for top 5 best episodes so far in the whole series, and it was certainly the most fun at the Orange League. But there was one episode that stood out more, mainly due to filling in the unfortunate hole of unfulfillment left by this episode and making up for it in spades. But before that, a couple of honourable mentions.
Ballad Party Panic!
Though this was a fun romp all around, I had to leave it out for two reasons. One, its greatest strength was also its biggest weakness. So much stuff. Stuffing pretty much 3 episodes into one made it really memorable, and some of the confrontations were awesome. It was also so bloated that none of them were given time to breathe. I'd still probably put it in my top 10 almost entirely due to nostalgia, but the main qualm I have with putting it on this list was that it's not even really an Orange Islands episode. In fact, I even got comments expressing surprise that this was actually the first episode of the next season due to it being so Indigo-centric. Also, I'm still a little bitter that I forgot to use this joke.
What difference does it make if it's episode 81 or not? Because I died at episode 81!
Charizard chills!
Yes, this was a memorable episode and a real turning point for the characters. In fact, you could say it's one of the least filler episodes of the entire season. It really didn't age that well, with pretty boring pacing and clunky animation. You can't deny its impact though.
The Crystal Onyx!
It's a crystal onyx. I can't not mention one of the most striking images in the entire season, even if the episode itself was kinda meh. It was still an intriguing setting and it definitely gave me some great material, so I can't just leave it alone.
The Joy of Pokemon!
Although you could say half the appeal of Nurse Joy is how amusingly persistent their design and personality is across their clandestine dynasty, but to me that just makes it all the more refreshing when you meet one that breaks away from the norm. Almond Joy was, well, a joy to watch, and ironically it's the inclusion of the uncharacteristically stupid kids, and you have to try really hard for them to be uncharacteristically stupid, that brings it down. And now, my number 1 best episode of the Orange Islands.
Meowth rules!
Indeed he does. The Orange Island season was a bit simpler than the Indigo League, with less pressure, less rivalry, less badges. It was almost entirely about the world rather than the battles. This would be a great direction for the show to try out, and they'd try it again with a bit more success in Sun and Moon, but I think they fumbled the execution a bit in the fact that they didn't do much with this new freedom in terms of character. I go into this more in the recap, but suffice it to say, although I understand that as a long-running show there still wasn't much they could do in terms of character development, it was still a little deflating that pretty much every single episode was just a vacation without even an inkling of growth. However, in this episode, I saw a glimpse of how awesome it could have been. Meowth Rules not only does a lot of the great things seen in the other episodes on this list, such as hilarious gags, tight pacing, and gorgeous animation, but it added the only thing that those were lacking: a good message and a look into what really makes the characters tick. As I mentioned in the review of this episode, what makes it so special is how each character is shown in their comfort zone. That zone is challenged and we see the strength of their character and how they react. Jesse and James want riches, but when challenged on that by the peril Meowth is put in, they're still willing to throw it all away because they care more about Meowth's happiness, even when it doesn't involve them. Meowth is happy where he is, but when challenged on that by being offered more, he lapses before realizing that what really makes him happy is the connection he has with the team. That message too. Last season the message throughout seemed to be failure is not the end of the journey, but here the message is like an addendum to that. Never forget what really makes you happy. Think about what you desire versus what you require. A message tailor-made for kids and sorely needed for many adults too, told in a non-patronizing way organically through the actions of characters. It's a story and episode that, with the characters changed, wouldn't seem out of place in some of the most praised kids cartoons in recent years, such as Avatar: The Last Airbender or Steven Universe. It made me laugh at and appreciate the characters and reappraise my own life situation. It's the kind of episode I love even more as an adult, and the reason why I keep going with the series. I guess you could say that stories like this are what really make me happy. So that was my top 5 episodes of the Orange Islands. I'm looking forward to seeing what I can learn in the coming seasons, but while we're looking at what really makes us happy, maybe we should also take a quick look at just what really makes us mad.